parade in the U.S. Capitol, Washington, today marks the 250th anniversary of the American Army. The parade will be attended by the birthday celebrant Donald Trump, who turned 79 today. His opponents believe that the date of the parade was chosen deliberately to please the president. After a week of protests against the government's migration policy, dissatisfied citizens are planning to take to the streets again today under the slogan, "No Kings." TSN's own correspondent in the United States, Olha Koshelenko, will report on the preparations for the celebration of the army and the president.
Barricades and military equipment line the streets of Washington. This is how the Capitol is preparing for the festive parade marking the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. The event itself will begin today at 6:30 p.m. local time. More than 6,500 service members, 150 pieces of equipment, and 50 aircraft will take part in it. The celebration will conclude with a festive fireworks display. The main idea, according to the organizers, is to showcase the evolution of the U.S. armed forces from the time of the War of Independence, when they fought on horses and donkeys, up to the present day. Bradley fighting vehicles and Abrams tanks will parade through the streets. The parade had been planned for 2 years, meaning it was initiated back during Biden's term. However, the current administration helped ensure that the event was scheduled for June 14th. Coincidentally, that is Donald Trump's 79th birthday. And the president's critics suspected that this coincidence was not accidental. They say that in this way, Trump is giving himself a birthday present. As the commander-in-chief, he will obviously take part and deliver a speech. The army officially distanced itself. They stated that they are not honoring the president's birthday, but suspicions remain. Americans' attitudes toward the parade are divided. Some believe that the army deserves to be honored. Trump's opponents, meanwhile, have organized the No Kings movement and plan to protest against authoritarianism in every state.
This demonstrates our military strength, American pride. In my opinion, we should do this every year.
And what about the president's birthday?
That's just a coincidence. And really, what difference does it make? He's our president, and we should congratulate him.
I love our army. My father fought under the orders. But this is absurd, ridiculous, shameful. I could go on with epithets. But that's enough.
Do you, by any chance, consider it just a coincidence that it's also coincidentally the president's birthday?
It was done deliberately so that the parade would be on his birthday. But that's enough for me to say about it. I don't care about this birthday.
Parades in the Capitol are not an American tradition. The last time the military marched through the streets of Washington was in 1991. That was to mark the end of the First Gulf War. And now, a bit of accounting. According to the most generous estimates, $45 million was spent on this year's event. Of that, $16 million will be allocated to restoring the road surface after the passage of military vehicles. Reporting from Washington, United States, Olha Koshelenko, Maxim Shinkarenko, Ton 1+1.
The United States is against lowering the price cap on Russian oil. This is reported by Bloomberg. According to their information, there are currently no changes in Washington's policy, although there is still hope that Donald Trump might change his decision during the G7 summit. This meeting will begin tomorrow in Canada, and it is already known that in order not to irritate Trump, the G7 countries will forgo a joint communiqué. They will not even attempt to reach a jointly agreed statement. Instead, individual countries will most likely issue joint statements on various topics. But on one topic, as Reuters reports, there is, without question, solidarity. Most of the G7 countries agreed to lower the price cap on Russian oil to $45 per barrel, even if the United States does not agree to such a decision. The leading role in this decision is being played by the European Union and the United Kingdom. 3 people were killed and about 60 injured. These are the consequences of the Iranian attack on Israel. Tehran, for its part, stated at an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council that there were 78 dead and 320 injured. Iran began launching ballistic missiles at Israel the previous evening in response to the Israeli attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, against the backdrop of the shelling, is calling for the overthrow of the Islamist regime. Watch the latest news about the Middle East conflict in the following report. This kind of scene after the shelling is all too familiar to Ukrainians. Rescuers are clearing the rubble after a missile strike in Rishon LeZion, the 4th largest city in Israel. They managed to pull out a baby and its parents alive, but there may still be people trapped under the debris. There are more than 20 wounded here. I held this child for a while as we were rescuing her family, her parents. Then I went over to them and handed the child to her parents. And this is what the city of Ramat Gan looks like. After the strike, only the frames of the buildings remain, and the cars are just twisted metal. Israeli woman Linda Glinfeld shares her impressions of the night.
We heard the siren. We were lucky to make it to the shelter. We sat in the shelter, and then we heard this huge crash. It was terrifying. We were sure that the rocket had hit our building.
Overall, Iran launched dozens of rockets at Israel that night. Locals hid in shelters and sang songs. According to Axios, several neighboring countries and Americans helped repel the attack, allegedly to protect their own citizens and property in the region. But there were casualties. At least 3 people were killed and about 60 were wounded. Tel Aviv also struck back at Iran. They attacked Merabat airport, where an Iranian Air Force base with fighter jets and transport planes is located. At the site of the strike, fire and thick smoke could be seen. Iran's ambassador to the UN, Amir Saedi Iravani, stated at an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council that in the past day, 78 people have been killed and more than 320 injured by Israeli strikes. Tehran promises a response.
These deliberate and systematic killings were not only illegal, but also inhumane, horrific display of calculated aggression. These atrocities are a clear act of state terrorism and a blatant violation of international law.
In Tel Aviv, the launch of the special operation Rising Lion is explained as a preemptive strike on uranium enrichment sites, where the development of nuclear weapons was reportedly about to be completed. As a result of the shelling, the IDF eliminated several top military officials and 6 nuclear scientists. The Western press writes, given the scale of the attack and the current window of opportunity, one of the real goals of the Israeli side is to encourage the overthrow of the Islamist regime. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the Iranians with such an appeal.
The Islamic regime, which has been oppressing you for almost 50 years, threatens to destroy our country, the state of Israel. The people of Iran and the people of Israel have been friends since the time of Cyrus the Great. It is time for the Iranian people to unite around their flag and their historical heritage, to stand up for their freedom against evil and oppression. The regime has never been this weak.
Amid the intensification of attacks, the Embassy of Ukraine in Israel has received more than 20 requests from Ukrainian citizens for assistance with evacuation from Israeli territory. This was reported by our ambassador, Yevhen Kornichuk. According to him, there is no information about any casualties, but for now, our citizens are being advised to avoid traveling to the Middle East. Oksana Tkachenko, TSN 1+1. To mine the area in front of the front line, drop explosives into enemy trenches and deliver food to infantry who have been holding their positions for over a month, these are the tasks of Ukrainian drone pilots. Previously, all these functions were performed by people. Now, in the modern conditions of war, they have been replaced by hexacopters. These are giant drones that Defense Force pilots mostly operate at night, since they are large and quite noisy. TSN special correspondent Yulia Kirienko witnessed one of the night missions of the pilots from the 24th Brigade, named after King Danilo, who fly the Vampire hexacopter on the outskirts of Chasiv Yar. High speed, considerable distance between vehicles, and driving without headlights. These are the rules of the road at night on the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, where enemy drones dominate the sky. We reached the position from which the Vampire operators work. These are pilots who launch one of the largest hexacopters in the Ukrainian army, the Vampire drone. It is used to deliver a significant amount of explosives directly into Russian trenches, just like that. They use it to mine the area in front of our infantry positions to protect them. Previously, this was done by sappers, but now the Vampire drone has taken over their job. But tonight, the drone crew has a humanitarian mission to deliver food to soldiers on the front line.
The sky is relatively clear right now, here near the front line where we are. The guys have brought the first package here, what they call Glovo. It contains food for the infantry. It's very important to deliver it today, because the infantry has been in the trenches for a very long time, a month or even longer, so they constantly need to be fed. And they do this with the help of large hexacopters, in particular this Vampire you see here.
The pilots set up a tall antenna for communication. It could reveal their positions because enemy drone operators are also watching them. But without it, our copter won't fly. They connect the Starlink and attach a several kilogram box to the drone.
The first payload has taken to the sky. The massive blades of the Vampire seem to tear through the darkness, and the drone's buzzing is louder than the explosions on the horizon. Because of the sound, the Russians have nicknamed the copter Baba Yaga. The pilot feels the pressure of enemy electronic warfare on the drone. The Russians have activated spoofing. The vampire system keeps warning about it non-stop.
Spoofing is when they throw out 4 sets of false GPS coordinates. Basically, the drone might think it's actually here, but the GPS shows it over there, so it starts trying to go in that direction. Then every 1.5 to 2 seconds, it changes again. It gets all confused, not knowing what's going on.
In such conditions, in complete darkness, the pilot has to deliver the cargo precisely to our infantry's trench, because it's not advisable for them to leave their shelter. That would be an extra risk of exposing their position.
They can't go out and listen. At best, they can listen from inside the shelter. If they go out, they might not make it back.
The aircraft approaches the trenches. The soldiers are already waiting there.
Hold on a sec.
There are still 9 boxes left, carefully wrapped in plastic film, and inside they're cushioned with empty plastic bottles so the cargo doesn't break upon landing.
He just took it and left. He left, and that was that. Although we do have a list that needs to be completed. Food, water, batteries, power banks, and everything else they asked for.
Everything has to be delivered before dawn, so it's safer to leave the outskirts of Chasiv. Summer nights in Donetsk region are far too short, just a few hours, so no time is wasted here. In an instant, the pilot loses video contact with the drone. Now it's impossible to see where to fly next. The cause of these disruptions is unknown, but the vampire crew in the underground shelter is getting seriously nervous.
He doesn't know where the position is or what. Just tell him it's a delivery. The video just froze. Our video just froze and we can't see anything. The package is already on its way. Dropped it.
Flying blind, the pilot still manages to deliver the cargo. Now the task is to bring the drone back. They'll have to do it by ear, because losing it could be too costly. And it's not about the price of the drone, but about supporting the infantry.
He should try a little lower so I can see it. Slowly, slowly. Try to descend just a little.
With that, the mission is almost complete. Ahead lies a difficult journey back from the positions because dawn is breaking on the horizon and they need to get out unnoticed by enemy drones before sunrise. So the pilot's car and our speed along the night roads, racing toward the first rays of the sun. This dawn on the front line has come for our soldiers.
If you've seen the dawn in the combat zone, it means you're alive.
Yulia Kirienko, Volodymyr Parakonsky, Ole Mostovi, TSN 1+1.
There have been more explosions in Russia. The General Staff has confirmed strikes on 2 targets within the territory of the aggressor country. This time, drones reached the Stavropol region and attacked the Nevinomysk Azot plant. It is one of the key producers of basic components for explosives, ammunition, and rocket fuel. The enterprise is involved in supporting the armed aggression against Ukraine, the General Staff explains. Another Russian military industry facility hit by drones is located in the Samara region. This plant manufactures components for explosives. That's the news we have for today. The next edition of TSN Online is tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Don't miss it. See you.